r/antiwork. Akari says, what's destroying the American dream? Included photo. Black Phoenix 1981 says, greed. The rich want more and more. The lower class has no real options. We pay the taxes and get screwed regularly, while the 1% keep more of the wealth. Difficult Worker 62 says, because them having the whole pie isn't enough, they want the crumbs now too. No Translator 2218 says, unfortunately, it's deeper than that. My parents are not celebrity rich, but they flat out own a 600k home, retirement pension, tons of liquidity, basically. But they keep the money because they are afraid of runaway healthcare costs and dying some horrible cancer death because they end up calculating costs of living, etc. They drive 7 to 8-year-old cars. They donate a lot of money to needy causes. They do charity work. But they probably sit on 2 to 3 million total. You'd never know, though. But the point is, they don't understand that the fact they can earn 80-90k a year in free money interest, it is because that money is coming from somewhere. You, and me, and the poor countries that corporations have basically plundered in order for profits to keep going up. The stock market makes 9% annually because they are stealing from the less fortunate. This is why my parents are perfectly good people, but they don't know what damage they are doing with their giant investments. They are literally sucking the world dry, and then they look at how much healthcare costs and wonder, why is it so much? Well, you wanted 9% interest, so you could retire like kings. There are lots of those people in the US. All wanting free money from their money. Ilad 3660 says, capitalism, rich people, and corporations. Murky Instance 4041 says, lol, that was my response in the original post, and about 1/3 agree, and the other 2/3 are disagree. The G8 says, changing tax structures so that corporations and rich people pay much less tax. People leaving unions, so workers have less pushback. Shifting jobs overseas. Political parties focusing on culture war issues rather than helping people. r/antiwork. Life is around meaning says, just had a newborn and I do not want to go back to work. There is no way I only get 3 months off from lab to spend with my baby while my employer only pays 60% for 6 weeks. 3 months to be with him is a pittance, then I will have to go back to work and slave away just to barely see him while working 5 8-hour days per week. Not only that, but my wife and I will barely see each other until we both end our shifts and go home. There has to be another way to live. This is absolute insanity. Even if you are single, you barely have time for yourself due to this outdated work schedule. Aggravating T6042 says, by all means the country should fund your procreation. No man I ever knew had 3 months off ever. Mamadavi says, back in the day a dad went to work and came home at 5. There wasn't time off. Why doesn't anyone think of this before having kids? Agreed, the work schedule needs to change, but we all did it with the babies and working. Gen X here BTW. Grouchy Seesaw 7950 says, the US is a third world country, let's be honest with ourselves for a moment. Milk or Cleek says, there's no incentive for those in power to change the system because they know people will keep having babies anyway, regardless of how bad it is. Sparas says, hey op, sorry these comments are trash. A lot of people here have been hurt by the system and think you should suffer too. That is the opposite of what this subreddit is about. I worked for a Rus company in Europe and I got 11 months maternity leave, 6 months at full pay. Companies could easily do it for their Rus employees, but they choose not to. My first job out of college was a maternity cover contract. Perfect for me. 9 months experience on my resume. It was a great foot in the door for me. The company saw I was a good worker and kept me on after my colleague returned to work. My colleague got to heal and bond with her baby. My current company lets people try a promotion when a manager goes on maternity leave by applying for a maternity cover position. If people like it, they'll have the experience to be considered for upcoming management roles, or if they don't like it, they can return to their previous job. It's healthy for the parent, baby, company, employees, and society. There are absolutely zero downsides to generous parents' leave. The fact the US separates tiny babies from their mothers at day/weeks old is inhumane and counterproductive for businesses. How many women drop out of the workforce altogether when appropriate leave would mean they stay working and innovating at those companies? It is a great loss to the company of their education and experience. Why doesn't anyone think of this before having kids? Op is upset about leaving their little baby. You can plan for that when planning to have a baby, but the reality of going through that experience is different. I'm not sure people realize how small a baby is at 12 weeks old. It's around the time they give their first smile. They can't sit or crawl. They're helpless. Of course it's tough. Too many us parents say they're lucky to get as much time off as that. You're not lucky. You're being abused for the crime of having a child. Every one of us was born. Why is it weird to demand a society that supports new parents and children at the start of their lives? Dears 19925 says, I was fortunate to live in one of the few, not third world, states and got 4 months with my newborn at 90% pay. The fact we only get such little time is atrocious. We haven't benefited from technological advancements. Not at all. Only the rich have gained from any advancements made in the last nearly 100 years. This is the thing that needs to change for the lessening of work. But the rich and powerful benefit from the status quo. So, without some kind of stripping of their wealth and power and removal from impacting our lives, we won't see needed change. The question of who's gonna pay for that has always been odd to me. We have the technology and already live in a post-scarcity society. Now, with AI and advanced machine learning and advanced robotics, we have the technology to make everyone's lives less scary, more secure, healthier, and more connected. The question of who is gonna pay for that is a sad capitalist knee-jerk defense of a system that literally only works for the very few. America today works exactly as capitalism is supposed to. By its very nature, it's running as intended. We can't stay a capitalist society. Just as we didn't start here, we need to find the next step forward as a species and replace capitalism with something that works for more, ideally all, people. r/antiwork. Calm Professional 434 says, how many of you have quiet quit, and when did it start for you? I got to say, for me, I quiet quit my last job 5 to 6 years into it, after realizing I didn't have a future with that company, but I never left, because I was at least getting paid, and now have a decent savings account because of it. I legit started my new job early this year and I've already quiet quitted. I hardly do the bare minimum, since I gave them a whole summer of hard work, and not a single, frick, I'm praise. Or even any kind of hey, keep it up, you've been doing an awesome job. The moment I make a mistake I feel like it destroys everything I worked hard for, so what's the point anymore? I'm just going to keep working enough so I don't get fired, but if I do I doubt I'll be upset over it. It also just seems the way 2023 has went. If the economy and housing market continues to stay awful next year, I can already see people quiet quitting for 2024, and it hasn't even started yet. Augustus B. McPhee says, I started quiet quitting years ago, back when it was cool doing only what you're paid to do. I've never been interested in promotion. I like my job too much, but whenever I'd see some paperwork head my way that's designed for a position above me, I slide it back. Was once told, when I pointed out I can't sign this, it requires someone in X position or otherwise authorized. Was told, well, I'm authorizing you. I made a point of being crystal clear that I'm not looking to expand my role above the current remuneration package, and thanked them for their consideration, then slid the form back across the table. N says, I'd say it started roughly around the time I started working. So it's been about 20 years now. Henrietta Syndrome says, I've never not been quiet quitting. Frick going above and beyond what my paycheck is worth, lol. Affectionatoad2826 says, many years ago, before this trend, approximate 2012 or so, do my job, get paid, leave. Rahul Redditor says, I said a quiet frick you to my employer when I learned they were checking badge reader logs for RTO compliance. Some days I don't do a damn thing, but answer a few emails. Thune Freeman says, I worked at a Walgreens. At first I busted my ass because I wanted more hours. Then when I had the hours I kept busting my ass because I took pride in my work making the store successful. One day, there was an all-hands meeting for all non-pharmacy staff. Management gave what they thought was a motivating speech. Thing is, in that speech, they included the fact that on a good month, the store was costing the company about $15K more than the store brought in. After that, the only times I busted my ass were for the regulars that I was on a first name basis with, and the other customers that treated me like a human being. Otherwise, it was only what was required. Shappy Off Things says, stop using their stupid pejorative expressions. You're working to rule, or acting your wage. When you go above and beyond, do they pay you more than what you would have earned in overtime? No, so stop giving them free labor, give them exactly what they pay for. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Stop buying into the BS idea that you are doing something naughty. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.